Shattered shards, the glass death world rattle, soul wakes screaming. Looms colossal, how do you bury a god who unresolved as cannot die? Azeroth's raw crust trembles beneath their shadow. The well of eternity pulses a wound with starlight, its tides lapping at the killing blow that sundered the old god. His slain heart bleeds through Pandaria's veins, a slow poison. The Shah stir, not born but unchained, their hollow howls fracturing the veil of eternal blossoms' fragile bloom. The world soul wakes screaming. The war within was never about Azeroth. Shattered shards, the glass death world rattle, soul wakes screaming. Looms colossal, echoing. How do you bury a god who unresolved as cannot die? Azeroth's raw crust trembles beneath their shadow. The Pantheons strike on Yogg-Saron, recorded in Chronicle Vol 1. This is not a defeat, a wound became a continent. Aman'Thul's blade split the old god's heart, carving the veil of eternal blossoms. Beauty bleeds from corruption. The Shah seep through fractured stone. Yogg-Saron's breath, unquiet. A continent grows where a god dies. The Pantheon does not erase, it reshapes. The veil's petals are both monument and maw. What blooms in blood cannot wither. The strike was not final, it was a suture, a scar that breathes. Aman'Thul bound the heart, but not the wound. The Pantheon's mercy is a cage, the veil remembers. The Shah remember, and the continent remembers in every root that coils, every petal that opens to a mouth. The Pantheon's spires rose on ribs, the highborn drank from cradles of nightmare. Beneath their thrones, the old gods breathed in slow, subterranean tides. Void lords had cast them as seeds into Azeroth's womb, tumors of entropy, waiting. Yogg-Saron, the devourer, was no exception. Its heart, a black pearl of hunger, pulsed until the highborn pierced it. Now, the veil of eternal blossoms blooms where its blood pools, not a garden, a wound. The Shah are not spirits, they are splinters of a slain god's rage leaking through petrified sinew. The highborn called it ascension, the land called it burial. Their citadels, those glass monoliths, stand on the devourer's spine. Every glyph they carved fed the rot. Every spell they chanted unraveled the veil. The reaping was no accident. It was the old god's cough. The Pantheon's blades could not kill what was already dead. They could only delay the inevitable. The Shah seep upward. Pandaria's mountains crack. The veil's blossoms are teeth. The highborn's hubris was not their first, nor will it be their last. Azeroth's bones remember every god who tried to rule them. The continent does not forgive, it does not forget, and the heart that was slain. It beats still in fragments, in fury, in every shadow that stirs where the veil's petals open to scream. The Pantheon's vote was silent. Binding had always been their creed until Yogg-Saron's hunger began unearthing tombs. To destroy a primordial was heresy. But the veil's soil turned to ash where his shadow fell. They chose the blade, not to kill but to sever. The heart was carved from his chest. Still it pulsed, as Shara offered her pact, a prison woven from light and root, a garden to hold what could not be buried. Zaval stood apart. He saw the cost in her eyes. Refusal was his answer, not defiance but dread. The garden bloomed without him. Its petals drank the heart's fury, but no prison is perfect. Cracks formed where the heart had beaten hardest. Fragments slipped fleet-wisted, nameless, writhing, the Shah. They seeped into Pandaria's breath, into every wound left open by the Pantheon's blade. As Shara's veil, meant to heal, became a sieve. The heart's final act was not to die, but to spill, and what spills must find its shape. The Shah are not new gods. They are Yogg-Saron's reckoning, his voice fractured into 1,000 whispers. Zaval's refusal echoes thereto, a warning unheeded. The Pantheon bound a heart, in its place they birthed a storm. And the veil, it waits, petals closed but never still. The veil of eternal blossoms does not breathe, yet its silence hums with a severed god's pulse. Once it was the well of eternity, a font of light so pure it bent the stars. Now it is a maw, a scar where Yogg-Saron's heart was torn. Petals bloom like wound edges, glistening with ichor that is not nectar. The Pantheon sealed a wound, but in doing so they carved a conduit. Each petal's unfurling is a heartbeat of the void. Do the roots drink ambrosia or the remnants of a slain titan? The air shimmers with paradox, beauty and rot entwined. The veil is both sanctuary and spillage. Here the Shah will stir not as invaders, but as echoes, born of a heart that never ceased to leak. The ground remembers. It cradles the fragments of Yogg-Saron's essence, a nursery for corruption. What waits beneath the blossoms is not life, but the unmaking of it. The arena is set. The first petal falls, the storm returns. 197 words. The blade of Aman'Thul cleaved the void. Light burned through Shaarj's obsidian flesh. The Chronicle Vol 1, page 17, *, the light struck true. The heart of the old god fractured. From its rupture bled the first Shah storm of unmaking that scorched the nascent world. *, the veil of eternal blossoms did not bloom, it bled. Aman'Thul bound the dying god's essence to the land, stitching petals over the wound, but the heart's last pulse had already shattered. Its corruption seeped into the earth, twisting roots into veins, flowers into thorns. The Chronicle, page 23, *, the veil is no garden, it is a sarcophagus of light and shadow. The blossoms do not growthy strangle. *, Shaarj's death did not end his reign. The Shah, his fragmented will, coiled through Pandaria like smoke through shattered glass. They were not born. They were unmade parasitic voids feeding on balance, on hope. The Pantheon's blade had sealed the god, but not his malice. The Chronicle, page 31, *, what Aman'Thul buried he could not kill. The veil's perfume is a lie. Beneath the scent of jasmine lies the stench of a god's rot. *, the blossoms tremble, not from wind, but from the pressure of what festers beneath. The Shah leak still whispers in the dark, hunger in the light. Every petal that falls is a shroud for another soul's unraveling. The Pantheon's victory was a scar, not a cure. Aman'Thul's blade had not erased Shaarj, it had only taught the world how to die beautifully. The storm returns. Not as myth, as breath, 241 words. The veil of eternal blossoms once breathed in hues of gold and violet. Now it wheezes through a shroud of iron gray. The seven Shah born of Shaarj's ruptured heart seep like poison through stone and root. They are not winds, they are wills-twisted, ravenous, ancient. Each carries a fragment of the old god's hunger, a hunger Garrosh hellscream now channels through blackened oracles and blood-forged blades. The veil's flowers wilt to ash. Its rivers coil with shadows that swim against the current. The Pantheon's seals, cracked by the Shah, cannot hold. The sky above Pandaria fractures at dusk, revealing a void that hums with forgotten tongues. Farmers in the lowlands speak of crops that wither backward, of children who whisper in languages no living tongue owns. Garrosh war camps glow with stolen light, their fires fed by the same corruption that gnaws at the earth. He does not fear the Shah. He bends them, forging their chaos into weapons that carve through mountain and marrow alike. But the heart of Shaarj is not a well to be drained. It is a wound. For every shard Garrosh plucks, the veil bleeds faster. The Shah multiply. They are no longer confined to shadow, now walk. They now think *. A statue in Dalaran's square shattered last moon, its eyes bleeding the same iron gray as the storms over Pandaria. The Pantheon, for all their power, cannot unmake what Shaarj has become. Their hymns falter, their champions falter. What blooms in the veil will not be contained by borders. The Shah are not merely Garrosh's tools, they are his reckoning. And beneath every petal that dies, the heart of a god beats on slower now, but louder. 241 words. The veil of eternal blossoms blooms where Shaarj's body was torn from the world. A scar, a shrine. Its petals are not life, but memoriflesh of a god, petrified in agony. The Pantheon bound his essence, yes, but binding is not killing. His heart, though slowed, still pulses. And from that pulse the Shah seep, not spirits, not demons, fragments, shattered shards of a murdered god, each carrying a whisper of his hunger. The Pantheon knew this. They wove chains of starlight, sealed the wound with oaths of star metal, yet their creed forbids the final strike. To destroy is to corrupt, so they chose custody over death. A mistake. The Shah are not prisoners, they are a flood. They slip through every link, every breath of wind, every petal that falls. They do not seek to rule. They seek to unmake to return the world to the shape it wore before light touched it, and the Pantheon, their victory is a ledger of debts. They hold the line, they will hold it for ages, but the veil's roots spread, the Shah's whispers grow louder, the heart beneath the earth beats slower but deeper. The cosmos does not end in fire or shadow, it ends in patience, in the quiet rot of a wound left to fester. The Pantheon's chains will hold for now. But every god's shadow has a price, and Shaarj's heart, though broken, has never stopped learning. The blossoms fall, the Shah rise, the struggle is not won. It is only delayed, 284 words. The Pantheon built a prison of order. The old gods wove a shroud of becoming. What blooms in Pandaria is not peace, it is a wound kept raw. Why Shaarj's heart, split by celestial blades, became the first lesson. To slay an old god is to spill ink into water. The stain spreads, the Shah are not demons. They are the question, what does a broken god dream? As Shara's pact did not grant freedom, it granted a mirror. The highborn watched their reflections twist flesh unbound, will unchained. The curse was no accident, it was a whisper. You cannot cage what thrives in the cracks of your design. The Pantheon feared annihilation, they found something worse. A force that adapts, that learns. The blossoms in the veil are not flowers, they are the heart's pulse, a rhythm the light cannot silence. Every seal is a provocation. Every victory a pause. The Shah rise not to conquer, but to ask to remind all who listen, the eternal conflict is no war, it is a dance. And the music never ends. The veil's blossoms now bleed, thorns twist where petals once unfurled. Xal'atath's pulse, awakening in jagged gasps, stirs the corpse of Shaarj. His heart, sundered but unquiet, seeps corruption into Pandaria's roots. The war within does not begin with a strike, it begins with a whisper. The Shah coil in the air, thick as rot, their forms flickering between shadow and memory. They are not born anew. They are the breath of a god who should be dead. In the shattered expanse, the world soul's cry fractures reality. Cracks spiderweb across the sky, and from them, the veil's blackened spores drift. They settle on broken shrines, on the bones of fallen titans, on the scars where the Pantheon once thought victory sealed. But Shaarj's essence is a wound that never clots. The Shah's laughter now mingles with the screams of the dying jungle. What wakes in the war within is no accident, it is a return. The Pantheon's blades could not cleave this evil clean. Now, as Xal'atath stirs, the Shah rise not as invaders, but as echoes. The dance continues, and the music, it swells. The veil breathes, petals the color of congealed blood unfurl, where Shaarj's heart was torn free. They glow, yes, but their light hums with a fever, a sickness that sweetens the air and rots the roots beneath. The Pantheon sealed the wound, they say. Yet the scar pulsates. Sha'arath's coil in the blossom's shadows, not born but unmade fragments of a god's death, given shape by the world's refusal to forget. Deer with antlers of black crystal drink from pools that mirror no sky. Their eyes, twin voids, flickering with the same ancient rage that once split the earth. The Pantheon's chains hold for now, but even the eldest titans know a truth unspoken. To wound an old god is to plant a seed. What grows in the veil is not life, it is patience. The petals fall, they do not decay, they remember. And in their memory, Shaarj's heartbeat lingers, a dirge, a drum, a door left ajar. The veil of eternal blossoms, beauty born of a wound, corruption seeping from the heart of a god. What happens when the veil's wound fully reopens? Shaarj's heart bleeds, coil where petals fall. The war within stirs, Xal'atath's soul awakens, clawing at Pandaria's scars. Will the Pantheon seal this rift or feed on its hunger? The next act